Hi, everyone. So we're doing a little roundtable today on cellular regeneration. So I'm your host, Antonia Harmon. We have Lisa from Question the Narrative. So we've been doing some cellular regeneration with her. We've got Honey C. Golden and we've got Abby Wynn. So these are my lovely friends and healers. And so we're going to talk about what I've been doing, what's going on with them. Abby has now been regenerated like a few days ago. Lisa's got continued progression with her finger, and Honey's stepping in to just sort of give us her her opinion on everything as well. So let me give you a brief. So for anyone who is unaware of what this all is, I have discovered a new cutting edge healing technique, which I think is basically us being the med beds. Which med beds is something which have been medical beds, which have been spoken about in the truther community for a little while. And it's basically, there's an energetic machine that we sit inside or lay inside, and it will regenerate our bodies. Now, hopefully this technology exists. It's hard to know whether it actually is because Honey's got a yes on it. It does actually exist. But I think with a lot of energetic technology, it is a mimic of what we can actually do ourselves, like telepathy, like Zoom is telepathy. So I think there are some technological stuff that actually we can do ourselves. And I've discovered with the help of Lisa, because Lisa had a fight with a blender, how to regenerate flesh and reverse age and all sorts of craziness. So just in brief, Lisa had a fight with a blender. Her finger went necrotic, which is when it goes black, it's cell death, and it's not pretty. That would mean that there's going to be sort of skin grafts, or in olden days, it would have been amputation. So it was in a mess. And then we were talking to one another, and I discovered a new technique because of out of necessity. Invention comes out of necessity largely. And I managed to regenerate Lisa's finger within a week. It went from black to flesh colored. And it's been, how long has it been now, Lisa? A couple of months?
Yeah, a couple months now. I had this February the 8th is when the accident happened. And I didn't take the bandage off because I would never look at it. I knew in my mind that if I couldn't continue to visualize it being healthy, it wouldn't be good. But when the bandage is off and the doctors would look at it, they'd all go like, oh, okay, that's necrotic. And we were like, and they're like, just calm down, just calm down. And that's when you said, that's when we started talking about it. And then it started coming back when I took the bandage off.
Yeah.
Access to air.
Yeah. So what's been happening recently? So we haven't spoken for a few weeks about your finger on Zoom. So how's it going now? What's the updates on it so far?
It's absolutely extraordinary. As I said to you before, every single morning when I wake up, it's like there's a movement because it's the section of the finger that was completely almost taken off. A little bit more of it is healed. The flesh underneath it has been growing back because not the skin had grown back over it after the bandages came off, but underneath it there was muscle mass or the cells were missing because it had just covered up a wound, but it didn't have the underlying flesh that you normally have. So it's just this process where you can feel it. I feel it every day. It's actually, I feel the tingling of cells coming together. It's absolutely extraordinary. It really is extraordinary because I feel it. Now there's a numbness here. When I touch it, I put pressure on it, but it doesn't hurt anymore. And it's enough of it that the numbness means that there's a lot more underneath it. And I don't feel like that hole underneath the finger. So it's really continuously creating cells. That's where it is. And when people look at my finger, I don't know if you can see that, they can't really see a difference because there's no difference in coloration. There's a slight bump on the top there, but my nail's long enough. They can't notice the difference. So there's no physical damage of it, which is fascinating on that. Yet I feel it. I feel it. I can't get arrested because I can't get fingerprints done because there's no fingerprint left on that at this point because it's still regenerating. But you can't tell that I had this happen.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's no pain involved in it, but I do feel something in there all the time, like there's a numbness, but every day that area that's hardened and was numb is smaller and smaller and smaller. And I know it's going to take like a couple more months to completely redo, but it's coming back into a healthy finger.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you, Antonio. I'm glad to be your guinea pig. I'm going to try not to have those interactions with any blenders again, so we don't have to try a new one. Yeah, it's really, but it was so interesting because as we were talking about it, it's like there was like immediate feeling of transition on the finger. Really interesting. So yeah, and that's an accident. So let's, you started expanding this concept broader out. So
it was a necessity more than an accident. It was like, oh
dear,
Lisa's finger is not in a good way. I don't know, but the word necrotic just frightened the life out of me, much more than it did you. I was not comfortable with that.
Honestly, I was, but everybody's like, why aren't you upset? I'm like, well, if I am upset, I will create it worse. So I knew enough about that. That was like an instinct. But I knew that if I looked at it and saw it that way, that visualization would never get out of my head. And I would then be creating more and more of the thing I didn't want. So was focusing very much on this is the outcome. This is the outcome. And of course I go to the doctor like this, like, oh, that bandage, I'm like this, and talking to someone else. I literally did not look at it. And it was interesting because you're right. I wasn't as worried about the necrotic because I was avoiding it, and you helped me. I think the combination of visualizing it and your cellular regeneration was a really good combination. Honey, what do you think? Because is that a good combination?
That's a really good point, because you can try and heal someone and give them all this power and work on their body. And if they're just like, no, and they're stopping it, then it can stop it. Sometimes you'll still get through.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they're stopping it, and usually it's with emotional healing. I've noticed it. But yeah, so you helping it along is really important, and it tells you how two powerful people working together can really create something amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's your body, and you're telling your body, yes, you're healing. Yeah. And Antonia is giving it the seed of healing, and the frequency, and you're allowing it to come in.
Yeah. And I don't know, Antonio, as you were going through that, you were working on higher cellular voltage. There was a period of time where you were playing around with that and doing that. I literally couldn't sleep. I was so energized. I could not sleep more than a few hours a night.
Yeah, it's shifting. So you and I were in the first stages, so we kept on pushing through, and Abby's just come on as
Abby, how do you feel?
Participant, and a few other people are coming in as later participants.
Now, when you can't sleep, don't blame
energy and pretty good spring cleaning. All of a sudden, it was like, right, I can do a gazillion jobs I've been putting off. What happened to you, Abby?
Well, not many people know, but I've been in chronic pain all my life, and we were joking about this, Antonia, because if I hadn't been an energy healer, I probably would just be in bed and not do anything at all for my whole life. And so you suggested to try this on me, and it was upsetting to have no pain for a day, because then I just realized how much pain I've had for how long I've had it. So I'm going through an emotional process at the moment where I'm getting used to the idea of not being in pain. I'm 52. And I was trying to track back, well, when did it start? It started well before my 20s. It really did. And it just came on gradually. So as Lisa was saying there, not wanting to create what the doctors were seeing, I didn't want to create anything around a diagnosis or a label. So I've never got diagnosed. I didn't realize it was so bad. I have good days, I have bad days. I'm incredibly sensitive to energy. And what I've learned over the years is the only thing really that my body responds to is energy work. And if the energy work can create a space, then the body will catch up with itself and clear and heal what's going on. And so, Antonia, your frequency is just unbelievable. Whatever you blasted me with cleared away whatever was irritating me. and getting in and hurting me. But my body went into shock then. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? So it was like, because you're just so amazing. It's like, we want to do it all, let's do it all now. And my body's like, whoa, hang on a minute, what's going on? So like Lisa was saying, she didn't sleep on Tuesday. And, I don't even know what bloody week it was, whatever day it was. I woke up. It was this week. It was a few days ago. I woke
It's only
up
a couple of
at like
days ago. We've only been doing
yeah,
this
it's a
a
couple of
week.
days. I woke up at 7 a.m. and I moved in the bed as I do, and nothing hurt.
Yes,
And then I
2
had
days
this little
ago from
voice.
today. Today's Thursday. It
2
was 2
days
days
ago,
ago.
yeah. So then I had this little voice said, you could go for a walk today. And I'm like, oh my God, I could actually go for a walk, because I haven't been going for a walk for months because of all of the solar energy coming in and all of the light codes and everything. I've just been a mess. So I got up out of bed and my hips didn't hurt, and I got on my walking stuff and I walked, and then I came home and I did this and I did that. And I went to the garden center, did some work, saw my mother. I was still going at 11:30 at night, and I was going around the kitchen dancing, and I had no pain. And I go, thank you, Antonia. And then I woke up the next day and I was heavy and I had pain, but it was nothing like the pain that I would have had. So I'm thinking, you'd go up in steps, and because I've had 4 children, right? And if you try and take a baby and put it on a developmental chart, they never grow in a straight line. There's always going backwards, going forwards, shooting up overnight. So I think being patient with my body, but the fact that I had that day, that it's possible to have a day pain-free, has lifted my spirits so much. Now, as you guys all know, I achieve a lot while I'm in pain. So I'm just thinking, oh, what could I do when I'm not in pain? That's incredible. So, and we were talking yesterday, Antonia, because we were saying, okay, why did it come back the next day?
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned, which I thought was really interesting, like a column, that you're filling a column with light, and that maybe there were leaks and cracks in the column and that we need to seal it up. So every time I go into that visualization and I patch myself up, it feels like it takes better. So it's possible that the integrity of whatever structure in my energy field that we're working on needs to also be healed too. So it's a co-creation. I think, I'm doing bits, you're doing bits, I'm talking to my body, because this week also, very interestingly, there's somebody that I know who doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in energy healing, doesn't want it, very, very sick, so sick, she's desperate. Okay, I'll get the healing. So I've been sending her healing and she hasn't been letting it in at all. And so she's only gradually beginning to let it in. So you can see it really is like Honey says, you have to receive what's being given. And the frequencies that you're giving, Antonia, are so strong. I think it takes a strong person like myself and Lisa to be able to receive and absorb and make the most of it. So it's all a work in progress, and it's really, really exciting. It's like really exciting as to what this is going on. So I did just say thank you, Antonia, for giving me the opportunity to be your guinea pig too, because
well, we are beta testing.
Stunning.
We are doing guinea pigs, and interestingly, the people I've got at my beta testing group are all having good results as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was somebody who's got leukemia, and immediately after the session, the color came back to his cheeks, and he's got more bandwidth. So the bandwidth is something which I've coined. I don't know if it's in everyone knows the phrase, but basically it means more ability to accomplish more tasks. It's like when we get busy and overloaded and overwhelmed, we narrow our focus and we can do less things in a day. So now we've got a wider focus, and you have energy to get to doing jobs that you possibly have avoided. For me, it's like some of the spring cleaning and like unpacking some boxes. And I was like, right, that tea cupboard's a mess. And I ended up moving everything from my tea cupboard into a particular drawer, so that now my tea is much more accessible. Like those sorts of jobs, which you just think, ugh, and you never get around to. That's what bandwidth is for me. And every single person I'm working with has had increased bandwidth. It's almost like you've got the life force or the energy that you had in, say, your 20s, where it wasn't a bother to be able to go and do lots of jobs, or you could easily have social arrangements and see someone at breakfast, someone at lunch, someone in the evening, and be absolutely fine doing all these things. Whereas now I wouldn't necessarily meet a lot of different people in a day because it would just be exhausting. Now I'm getting.
It's interesting. Going to interrupt you on that one, Antonia, because even though my pain had come back slightly yesterday, I still went to go and see my mother. I went and brought things. I was carrying stuff around that I wouldn't normally carry. I came home, and my brain is expecting me to be shattered and exhausted and just want to have a rest. And I know I could actually do something. So I get in the garden and I start planting flowers. And it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And
But
I
that's
see
interesting
Lisa
what you're
nodding her head
saying.
there.
Yeah, Abby, what's interesting what you're saying is like your body has to catch up because your expectation of what you were going to experience and feel. I think that's exactly what I did with my finger. I was going through that and expected each time I touched, I would do something. And now I don't. You're right. It's really training yourself to have a different experience with the same stimuli. I think that's a really important concept of what you're saying, because we continue to expect an experience that way, which is very interesting.
Well, when I'm in pain for so long, I notice when I'm going up the stairs, even in the house, I'm bracing myself for the pain. When I bend my knee and go up the stairs, and even just walking up the stairs, I'm like, oh, it doesn't hurt so much now. I got a sharp pain today after I went for a walk, but I haven't gone for a walk and it's got a sharp pain. I go, oh, I got a sharp pain. Okay, I have to be careful. So it's just, when I was saying to you, Antonia, about the levels of pain that I would experience, where 9 and 10 would be incapacitated in bed and not able to move. I've had days at 9 and 10, but my average lately would be between 6 and 8. And so yesterday was a 3.
Wow.
And it's stunning.
And the day before was a 0.
Tuesday was a 0, and I have not had a day of 0 ever. It's just unbelievable. And I get so excited then, but then I don't want to be hopeful. Oh, I could live like this forever. Say no, but even if I could just plateau out on something below 6 would be great.
The language you're using too, Abby, I think is what also is helping you. It's the belief in the language you use is so reinforcing. It's everything that we say to ourselves, because every word is creating that experience. So it's great that you're actually saying this live with people. And the more you say it out loud and the more you say it to yourself, I think the more it'll be that way.
Well, I've written books about this. This is how I speak all the time. So.
Yeah. No, I think it's really exciting. But I want to go back on this energy thing a little bit, because one of the things that's fascinating is that you look at this and you say you're healing, but you're regenerating to, like, we're going back to sort of a mean of where our body is at its optimal, and we perform at an optimal. And this energetic surge is also something we have to get used to, because I think that is the optimal and normal, but we've gone so far to the negative side of it that we don't know it. And I think that's actually one of the really amazing results of what you're doing on that.
I mean, it's really interesting. One of the beta testers, I'm going to be doing interviews with beta testers next week, but just to give people a little preview, one of them, she was perimenopausal, and literally overnight, all of her symptoms dissipated, and literally just went. All of her aching, all of her sort of finding it hard to get out of bed, the bandwidth, and she's got a whole list of symptoms that completely went overnight. So it's working. And I had someone else in chronic pain, and their pain vastly reduced. So we're going to talk to all these people individually. But I want to get to, because what I want to do is, Abby came up with something which I really like the sound of, and I'd like Honey to potentially go and tell us more about it, if that's okay with you ladies. That's what I'd like to do. Okay. So Abby, what did you say the other day, which I was like, quite like that.
You and your ego. What's really interesting is I'm doing research at the moment on the Anunnaki and trying to figure out all the stories and all the things that happen. But what always fascinated me is that our bodies are like machines in one way. We have the entire reflexology on our hands.
Zeros and ones. It is a binary coding on machines. I've always seen the zeros.
Yeah, but it is like a machine, and we have the our whole body's on our hand, our whole body's on our ear, our whole body's on our feet, all the meridian lines. It's not an accident. And to me, it feels like there must have been a blueprint somewhere designed for how we're put together, and that somebody would have been involved in that blueprint idea. And so I have a sense that because of the way you think, Antonia, it's very possible that you have an inner knowing of the inner workings of the body, where I feel, and what's coming through the collective at the moment, is that we have certain switches in our body that have been switched off deliberately to keep us lower in our energy. It always reminds me of Star Wars, where they put the restraining bolt on to the droids to stop them running away. It's like we have restraining bolts put on us to stop us growing, blossoming, becoming bigger. We have bombardment from other technologies, frequencies coming down to us all the time. I mean, even our equipment in our houses, our fridges emit frequency that is detrimental to who we are. And so to be able to get into the machine and to be able to fiddle a few switches and experiment, I think it's fabulous, because even if there is an actual med bed with actual technology that you can sit into, how many people in the world are going to be able to do that when, you know, this is more accessible? This works on the belief system that you have with your body, like Lisa's believing that her finger is going to heal is really, I think, 80 to 90% of the fact that it can take and can go. The energy really, you couldn't do it without the energy, but if you didn't believe it wasn't going to happen, it wouldn't happen. So I think that Antonia has that thread in her of knowing how all of this stuff behind what we know, how it works. So anyway, so you want Honey to douse on that?
You potentially said, no, you said it much more directly than that. That was a very indirect. You said that I was potentially one of the original builders, is what you said.
One of the builders of the body, the blueprint builders. Yeah.
You were one of the alterers of the body. So you knew all about the body, but you were one of the alterers. So you changed the body a bit. And this is kind of, you know, all of us have had these lifetimes where we've skated around and done things we thought were maybe good. So your intentions were good at the time, but then it morphed into something else, which it's almost like it was pulled out of your hands. So it's really important that we also go through the process of realizing that we agreed to do some of that stuff too. Like all of us have had these lifetimes where we skated in the gray and sometimes in the dark, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Anunnaki did alter the body.
But let's start with the Anunnaki story, just so people are slightly aware of it. Do you want to go into a bit of that, Honey, as well? I think
so. Many ETs interfered with Earth, right? They came in, Earth was like a big experimentation place where they were experimenting on things. They were learning how to communicate with each other. And then they did something really unpleasant, which is basically they created the veil. So they created a veil, they got a group of beings together, which were humans, and they altered them so that they couldn't access who they really were. So I feel like you had something to do with a couple of the organs in the body.
Ooh, which one?
So you had a very good knowledge of the body itself, but some of the organs were created to actually make the body more complicated. And one
like
of those,
the appendix
nervous system. Yeah.
So
to make but I feel like you actually had intimate knowledge of the what's the one that breaks, the appendix?
Yeah.
bursts.
Yeah. The burst. Yeah. So that was your baby. The appendix.
The appendix is supposed to be a source of prana. That's what originally they said it was, that it was almost like a second stomach for energy, for life force. So you sort of absorb your life force from the food that you're eating and from the sun and from energy practices. And that was a storage of prana, and that would keep you going for a lot longer. But that has been atrophied because it's only the size of a finger these days. It's like a wiggly little finger thing.
So it was kind of taken away from you.
Because that's supposed to, I think if that works, we can live hundreds of years, allegedly, or possibly a lot more. But that life force is gone, and that's completely atrophied. So you think that was the one? Because I've been moderately obsessed with the appendix for years.
Yeah, it feels like that was the one. And you had a lot to do with it, but then it was pulled away and it was turned into something else. So, you know, a lot of people have had these great intentions and they've discovered these amazing things. And then what happens? Somebody comes in and says, no, you can't do that. We don't want them to get it together, right? We don't want them to have free energy or whatever it is, you know, it's multitudes of things. But that is, I think you were involved in that. And I would say that was more around the Atlantis time.
So do you think there were
So-
slave race created by, were humans were a slave race created by the Anunnaki to make gold, or is that a whole hullabaloo?
No, I think original humans were already here, and I think they altered the human system to create a slave race. Yeah.
Right.
So will the appendix be useful again as an organ?
It won't be needed. So I get the crystalline body. We're not going to need a lot of the systems that we are using now.
That's interesting.
be a
Yeah, I
much
kind of
more
feel into that
simplified-
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because what I'm feeling as well is as we're going through this evolutionary stage, we're beginning to remember more and more who we are. And there are those of us who are, let's say, thought leaders, leaders in the healing area, are probably the ones that created a lot of the damage, and we're here to repair what we damaged. Because I know I went through
Yeah.
a huge cycle of, I killed 100,000 million people, and if I'm powerful, I'm going to do it again. Had to get over that, had to become clear with that and say, okay, I know my light, I know my dark, and I choose not to kill people. I choose to be powerful and do good with that. And that was a lot of the growth through the spiritual awakening process that I experienced. And I think a lot of us, I can see it in a lot of my friends as well. We wouldn't be this powerful if we didn't understand what power really was. And to be
Yeah.
able to use it now for good, for healing, for creation, it's a gift. And that's what we signed up for. So
Mhm.
I guess in another way, that's why I'm happy to be a guinea pig for you, Antonia, because we have to try these things, you know.
Yeah, we have to push it forward. It's time to push it forward. And what I see about this healing is it's like manifestation. So if you think about it, here's Lisa. She's like, I'm manifesting that my finger's going to heal. She won't look at it. And Antonia comes in and she goes, I'm going to give you the spark of healing. And so she sends that spark, and Lisa is nurturing it and babying it. And I'm sure that Antonia sent it out more than one time,
Yeah.
but she's using that seed to do her own healing. But the power of two, just in any kind of manifestation, is multitude stronger than the power of one. So you've moved into this like co-creative thing. And that's how manifestation works in the whole universe.
I think that's where we're going now. I've heard of Power of 8 groups being set up in Ireland.
Yeah.
That's something new to me, where everybody shares the intention for one person and puts all of their power into that one, and then they do the next person, and then they do the next person. And I think that that's how we come together as a race to say, we're going to rise above in groups. I really feel that's happening, because before, I think we've had many years where we've all been on our own. And now we're all kind of coming together more now, and it's really exciting, really exciting.
It is, because we're so much more powerful. We're very powerful in our own right, but we're so much more powerful together. So as everybody gathers their own groups, it's just like, wow,
That makes so
can do
much sense.
anything.
Honey. I love that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. The attention on that. And we've all seen that through other groups where people have been ill, and we've seen how we put the attention on others. But the rallying that everybody here did to support me and the finger thing, I know that was a big part of why it was healing. Absolutely. And then also,
I have to go soon, guys, but I just want to say that, when somebody's like on social media and they say, I'm not feeling well, send me healing, and then everybody just sends healing. And, the difference between a laser focused set intention between a small group of people and mass healing energy sent out just randomly out to the sky in case somebody wants it. There's huge difference between it. And I think that one of the things that I admire greatly about Antonia is how laser focused she is, how you really know what it is you want, and you focus on that, and you go in there and you do it straight away. And I think if we could all learn to work that way, then we get used to the idea that it is going to work, and it'll be faster, and it's done, and then we can go off and do something else and just allow it to unfold in its own time. And I think, as part of our growth is to think of that. So I don't know. Does that
Oh,
sound
that's
to
a
you?
really, really good
But
point.
it's
Oh,
also
it's
just
true.
keeping going. I have a laser focus, and I just a lot of I was talking to another healer friend of mine the other day, and she says, "Why are you so much quicker than I am?" And I'm like, "Because you have amazing visuals, and you're going off on rabbit holes and having a little experience. I'm just like juggernaut, push, 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 because that's my goal, and because I'm not that visually psychic, I think it means that I have more focused direction because I'm not seeing the whole story. But sometimes I can miss things in that way because it's a broader perspective with a single-minded focus and goal. So it's a different way of working, but it is, I just keep going. I'm relentless.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
really,
look, I'll say thank you to you guys, and I'll talk to you again soon. Okay.
Bye, Abby.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
nice to have you here. Yeah, that's interesting too. And you're right, you're tenacious about it. It's a really, really important point that nothing gets done without a real drive to get something done. But it's
Yeah.
really interesting, you know, how you're visualizing it about this energy thing, and what you just said about it, the power of two is really important. So is there a way then to think about what Antonia is doing, this energy thing and the power of two, how she can move that forward?
Well, I mean, she always has a patient or a client that she's
Yeah.
working with. So that's the other being, you know, that's the other person.
Mhm.
The way I see it is like, she's got the hot coal. So imagine caveman times, she's got the hot coal, right? And she's putting it into that little horn where the guy is like, yeah, I'm going to carry this to the next village. I've got the hot coal and we're going to make fire, right? And it's the person's job, who is the client, to protect the coal, to keep the coal burning, to keep the fire going. You know, she's going to start it, and it's your job to keep it lit. And that's the power of two. And really, that's because you're allowing it to stay lit. Because a lot of us, it's the programming that turns things off. You know, I'll believe it when I see it.
That's not
You
how
know,
belief
instead of,
works. You have to
I
believe it to see
believe
it.
it, and then I will see it. You know,
Yeah.
we have to get into that mindset to really truly heal.
Yeah.
And that's what you did. So
Yeah.
she
It is
gave
belief,
you
though, and
fire
it's
and you kept it lit. Yeah.
and it's belief that impossible things are possible, because I don't have that limiting beliefs around things. I expect things, but I've had innately within me for as long as I can remember that instant healing of all diseases is normal and natural. And I'm surprised that I can't do it. I'm also surprised I can't fly, but I'm not going to be jumping.
I'm with you on that. I believe I can fly too. I'm with you. Let's make this all happen.
You know, I'm surprised that I can't do it. So, you know, and it's really weird because the face stuff is really interesting as well, because I am sort of waking up and my lips are feeling like I'm a blow up doll or something. They're like feeling like it's hilarious. And then I'm looking in the mirror like, oh, my lines have gone just a bit. Like I had it this morning. I was like, oh, they've gone a little bit underneath my eye again. But it's sort of expecting these things to happen and holding that, you know, playing with it. So I think divine play is one of the most important things that we can do, and to expect the unexpected and to, you know, to play with these things. If you've got this, you know, this belief that it's not going to happen, that it's not going to work. If you believe you can, you believe you can't, you're right. Me, I'm like, oh, I wonder if it will work. Let's try this. And then things are happening. And it is really interesting to see my face changing because, you know, obviously Abby had chronic pain and Lisa's had this damaged finger, and I didn't really have anything physically wrong with me. So it sort of goes and works on the biggest priority. So my face, I prioritize. But there is another thing about bandwidth and energy levels and muscle. I'm seeing if I can get into muscle strength, because that's one of my weaknesses, because I spent a lot of time in a trance learning how to do all this stuff. My muscle strength has deteriorated, and I don't have the muscle strength that I used to have. I used to be very athletic. So it's just bringing that through. So I'm starting to do that. And I've just started a fitness program this week, and I'm like started lifting weights for the first time in ages. Like, yesterday and I did it again today, and I must admit my legs are sore, but I've now got the bandwidth and the strength and the even resolve and being able to, just the very fact that I bought a set of weights and I've signed up to my friend's exercise program, and I joined another gym which doesn't open another couple of weeks. I've suddenly decided to do all these different exercise things because I've got the bandwidth to do it, and it's not completely overwhelming, and I'm actually able to do some of these things with weights that I haven't done in quite a long time. So that's starting to build back. So, which bit of the bodies, it's like these little tubes. It looks like some of them are higher, and it's almost like I'm a mad scientist. I've got these test tubes in front of me, and it's like, right, which ones are low, which ones are high, which ones, all these different levels. And some of them are cracked, as Abby was saying, but I always wanted to be a mad scientist with hair growing out my ears. It sounds like I may have been.
I can skip that part of it. But I think this is really interesting about the muscle mass. It's one of the things I was looking at from a different point of view about clothing. So like when people have they lose muscle mass when they're ill, they lose muscle mass as we age, suppose of this aging process. So there must be something energetically to keep us. So the frequencies that you're looking at, the cellular voltage is related to that. So how do you get you back up to a good level? And then I was looking at also like this Emsculpt concept, putting into fiber. So almost like a lycra material, which would then be put on patients or elderly, so they don't lose it, which was the transition into increasing weight. So I'm wondering if there's a frequency that you can hit, which is also a voltage. So there's a frequency part of it. So I think it's a challenge on there, because I think that is a really important point that you're talking about, because so much of a result of inactivity that we've had results in this less muscle strength, which then results in an imbalance in your body of how much your body is processing and how you handle weight. And that's why you gain weight. And I think this is really interesting, really interesting. I mean, honey, what do you get when I say those things?
Yeah, so there's two things that happen when you age, and they've proven this with like extreme athletes or Olympic winners, of gold medals and stuff like that. So basically what they're doing is they're sweating a lot, and they're perspiring out their minerals. So they're losing their minerals, and the minerals are like the tinder. Those are like the flint that you light the fire with.
Okay.
So if you lose your minerals, then you don't have the capacity to keep the energy going inside your system. And if you put the minerals back in and you have a spark, what are you going to get? You're going to get the muscles, and you're going to have the energy to make them.
Interesting.
So I think it's two things combined that you need. And you can deposit minerals energetically as well. But to be honest, the body is still physical, and 10% of healing is the body's choice. So just to go ahead and put those minerals in is like a no-brainer, to go ahead and take your full spectrum of minerals. And that's going to change your spark inside of you. And to do two of those things, for Antonia to say, okay, I'm going to send you out these minerals, or she's going to say, go buy these minerals, and then I'm going to send you the spark.
What minerals do you recommend, honey, for people to go get?
I really like burdock root.
I don't have it.
Because it has,
you've told me that before. I should probably buy some.
It has all the minerals that the human body needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So,
right. We better both
and
do
I
that.
don't always take it all the time. I know it has been massive for the formation of the crystalline body, the minerals, and people have gotten all these symptoms because, I have ascension symptoms, and my higher self kept saying to me, burdock root, burdock root, burdock root. It took me a month to dig through the cupboards and find it.
Hmm,
But once I did, it took 3 days for me to feel better. And I had felt tired for months.
interesting.
So it's really important to have that burdock root. And I still don't take it every day. But honestly, like I can regenerate so quickly and feel so much better immediately. And also making sure your soul is inside your body. There's another spark. Because here we are every night, like as a group and also as the light worker group that we're talking to, because nobody else, you know, would connect with that necessarily. And saying to yourself in the morning, ooh, I feel terrible. And it's like, pull your soul back in, you know,
Hmm,
bring that back in. And any extra energy you get from, say, Antonia or, you know, what Abby's doing or what I'm doing, it's just going to be like voltage,
yeah.
you
Magnified.
know. So it's really good stuff, I think, all of this stuff. And I think what you're doing with frequencies are really cool, Antonia. So yeah.
Me too.
Keep it
Yeah.
up. Let's keep talking about that. I think that's the next kind of thing, but it's wonderful. But yeah, I second to what Abby says. I thank you for that because it really is a spark. And I do share that always all the time about how I was so conscious not to look because I knew I was part of the creation. And thank you, honey, for confirming that, because I do think that all of us need to learn to accept a gift too. I think
Yes.
one of the things I still struggle with. How do you accept a gift?
Or even a compliment, you know, it's sometimes a struggle to
Yeah.
accept a compliment.
Yeah.
So let alone the gift of healing or like
Yeah,
a brand
yeah.
new ruddy finger or whatever it is. That's much harder to accept than someone saying you're beautiful, which is
Yeah.
sometimes uncomfortable for people, you know?
Which is amazing. So wonderful. This is a good start. Thank you, Antonia.
Love it. Yeah. Thank
Yay,
you.
Fantastic. And now I can clap my hands together without pain.
Yay!
Without my
Cool.
fingers.
So
Yeah.
I'm having an event where I'm going to be doing some healing, which is going to be on the 13th, but I'm going to be doing shame, regret. What am I doing? Shame, regret. I can't remember what I'm doing, but have a look. It'll be in the link below. What is it? Shame,
don't
regret,
remember.
grief and guilt,
You
grief
told
and
me
guilt.
once.
So I'm going to be deleting all of that. That's going to be in the evening. And also I've got a new book, which is coming out on the 25th called Energy Secrets. So links below. So yay. Does anyone else want to say anything before we finish up?
No, I would just say, just allow the healing to come in, you know, find the healer, find the spark and allow it to happen.
Lovely. And make
I
sure if
say
you're not following
just-
Lisa and Honey and Abby that you do, because they've all got great stuff coming up.
Thank you. I just say believe.
Thank you.
That's what it is. Thank you very much. It was great to be here with you.
Thank you, everybody.
Ciao.
Stop recording.